2018.
All right, hello everyone. Welcome to All In on Real Estate. I'm your host, Aaron Goins. I started this meetup because when I was in the military, no one in my circles talked about real estate. A lot of times we talk about debt and other things like that, but nothing about real estate. So I want to start a meetup where people can learn about real estate and start building generational wealth for them and their families. So I'm very, very excited today for our guest speaker, worldwide, Miss Albrey G. What's up, Albrey?
It's always a great day to have a great day.
You're right about that. You're right about that. I start off by asking each guest speaker this question. What was your origin story into real estate?
My story actually started in college, thanks to a college professor. That led to one college professor needing something, wasn't just at least appropriate in his eyes. And that college professor changed the whole dynamic of our classroom setting after that. That setting went from us learning solely about different leadership avenues and things of that nature to us going into networking, ultimately because he told us the average income in the classroom at the time at that university was over $300,000, which means those parents were accredited investors. At 18 going on 19, had no clue what an accredited investor was. But he felt the need to share, and I chose to listen, along with several of us in that room who still operate today. And that led to me being partnered up with an individual after scores were rated based on certain tests that he gave us and things of that nature. And the individual that I was partnered with for that leadership, parents actually invited me to dinner one night. And that dinner changed a lot for me because at that dinner table, they were talking about all things commercial real estate. And little did I know, they owned a lot of assets, commercial assets by the beach in Florida. So it led to them talking about a particular property they had sold and within their condominium complex, their apartment complex as well. And they owned a parking garage that was attached to it. And you could purchase parking garage spaces individually and the whole setup. However, this particular couple was from Staten Island, New York, and they did not want any of the parking spaces that came with their particular unit. So he was trying to figure out what to do with it. And he said, Aubrey, what would you do with it? And I kind of went on a rant about what I would do with it. And he said, I'm pretty much paying a significant amount of funding to my marketing team, and none of them gave me any of those ideas. I said, well, I'll buy it. Me being me. And I had no clue what he'd say, but I'm that person that you have to tell me no before I assume no. Even at, when I was 10, when I decided to take a car, just so I could prove something to myself. But ultimately, it led to me owning a parking garage space, me renting it out while I was in college to the bank manager of Bank of America. And that led to a lot of other opening of doors for me. So I started in the parking space, and it led to other commercial, just things in general, and learning how things operate, understanding that, multifamily isn't the only asset in commercial that you can invest in. And there's a lot of other things that cash flow significantly better than multifamily. I'm not saying I'm for one over another. However, before you just go all in on one, since we're talking about all in on real estate, take time to get to learn about the different asset classes to see what you truly have interest in. But that's how I got started in commercial real estate.
Wow, that's a great start right there. I mean, just get educated like that from a professor. I think that's a great start. I mean, that's a great start. So let's just go down the journey before we get into the main meat and potatoes of this meetup that you're going to talk about. What was that, because you start off pretty young, you're pretty young. So what was that process for you after that, first interaction to, let's say 5, 7 years from then?
Significantly different. At the time, I had signed a contract to attend college on a particular way, which now is perfectly easy to operate. But at the time, I literally had to focus on staying within the parameters of that contract. And that meant I could not collect income. I could not make funds in any way, shape, form, or fashion while I was at college. So therefore, certain things had to be set up in place. And I significantly thought it was important for me to put an age on me being able to touch those funds so that I had the opportunity to truly go out and work my rear end off and learn different asset classes, learn different things, what I truly wanted to do. And I didn't want to chase, just the revenue or the capital that came with it, because it's easy to just fall in love with that, especially when you're 19. So age was placed on that. So I could not operate the way I wanted to. I could not receive funds. However, every weekend or every off day that I had while I was in college, I was driving around town looking at assets. I wasn't, out partying or having fun that way. Fun for me was cash flow. Fun for me was learning how to grow cash flow, learning how to add value to people in different ways, other than just having a good time, with partying and things of that nature while I was in college. So once I graduated, I started looking into it a little more and making sure I combine my passions and my things that I really love doing and how they could generate profits. But more importantly, those profits to where I could pour back into communities and continue to change that cash flow into being a overall value add, not just for myself, but other individuals, especially when I didn't have any bills, I didn't have any college debt, things of that nature. So it gave me the opportunity to really navigate my way through life in a sense. But I knew what I didn't want to do more than what I did want to do. And what I did not want to do was go in reverse direction to go forward. So I went and sought out the individuals that were doing what I wanted to do. More importantly, they were successful at doing it, because I think a lot of individuals have whys, and those whys are not about anyone other than, it should be about them, but it's about everyone else. So I always say, who are you? What do you want to do? Why do you want to do it? And what do you need to do or put in place timeline wise and deadline wise to achieve it? So that's what I did along the rest of it. So when you start talking about 5 years, 7 year, I had a better idea of what Albrey enjoyed and not what everyone else around Albrey wanted Albrey to do.
So let me pivot real quick with that, because I think you make a good point. While you were in college, you started to look at real estate, and like you said, others were doing other things like that, like partying and having a good time. Your party was real estate and looking at properties. Did you get any pushback from people saying, "Oh, or was you just so streamlined ahead it didn't really matter"?
It didn't matter, because I'm a firm believer in all information is not meant to be shared with individuals that don't want to receive it. I've never been a person to force something on, for anyone to receive. I have a pretty good sense of awareness, and as some would say, reading the room. I'm pretty good at, within a good 30 seconds, I usually know who I'm dealing with and who I don't want to deal with. So instead of me trying to educate them on something they weren't willing to receive, you have to show a lot of individuals. And when they start to say, "Hey, Albert, what you doing this weekend?" "I'm going to do this." "Can I come with you?" "Come on, let's go." So invite them a different way. So when we would have like our night where all of us would get together, I'd start talking about certain things, but I channel it in a way they would like it. Like in college, I had a shirt that I used to sell. It was called "Want to Know How to Make an Idiot Work," and it had an arrow on it. And on the back, it had another arrow. "Want to know how to make an idiot work?" So they were walking around in those shirts when we go out, etc. "Aubrey, how did you do this shirt? Why'd you get this shirt like that?" And that's how it gave me the opportunity to talk about real estate a little bit. "Oh, okay. So, oh yeah, I went to that real estate event. Got it, got it, got it." So meeting them at their level and stop trying to bring them to your level at a expedited pace. Lead them at their level at their pace, but more importantly, communicate within the language they're used to receiving and know how to understand. So that's why I took a different approach. I don't believe in trying to force anything. I like organic. Just like when you talk to me about, "Oh, you want the question?" No, I want an organic conversation, so it's honest. Nothing someone sat back and read and talked about, and then they're coming to someone that's unauthentic, because that's not who I am.
Love it. So during them first couple of years, them first 7 years, what was the learning experience? What's the big takeaway learning experience for you?
Less is more. I'm very passionate about whatever I do, because it's always about passion, purpose for me. There's no passion, there's no purpose, I'm not spending my time on it. Because the biggest transaction I'll ever make in my life will be time. It will never be financial. So I don't do anything I don't want to do ever. And fortunately, I've created those avenues for myself. I don't put myself in circles that are not adding value to me. So therefore, there's no way I could possibly continue to try to add value to them by trying to force it on them. So it's just one of those things where I would say surrounding myself continuously around individuals that add value, not just to themselves, but to others. But the one thing I definitely learned was I don't think patience necessarily is a virtue. However, it's necessary, because the question is, what's the virtue behind it? Like, what are you trying to achieve? But definitely less is more.
Okay, so your market is very lucrative. It's a lot of moving parts in your area. Um, how have you navigated through that area? Because I know, there's a lot of money in that area, and also um a lot, like I said, a lot of moving parts. So how do you navigate through your area compared to, I mean, some places a little bit more slower pace. Your pace is a little bit higher pace because of in the South Florida market.
Okay. Partnerships. I've never been a person. I'm used to being a part of a team. I'm used to being a part of large teams. I'm used to being in front of 10 plus thousand people having to speak. There couldn't be a break. There couldn't be performance issue. There couldn't be a, not having success. Like, I don't believe in failure. I believe in experience. So I never, missed the opportunity for opportunity of experience that could catapult me forward. So I would say for me, it was just one of those situations where it's not about the location, it's about the asset. It's about the numbers. Do the numbers make sense? Do the numbers work? If that group has experience, if we were to partner, what would that partnership look like? I'm that person that always looks at the whole first, and then I break it down into parts. And then I see how those parts fit together based on personality wise. Like, I will always say, know your personnel, KYP. If you don't know your personnel, like if you got 3 underwriters on the team, chances are you're gonna have a hard time, getting the equity for whatever it is you need, because they only want to sit behind a computer. No offense to any underwriter, but they usually only want to sit behind a computer, and they don't want to talk to too many people. So once you kind of find out, what your personnel is, what you're trying to achieve, you can go from there. As far as South Florida is concerned, it's more so what you're looking to invest in. Here, you pay for parking 7 days a week. Car washes unlimited. About 2.5 months ago, I invested in a car wash. Um, Returns are ridiculous. I'll say that, but it's like 7 days a week, and then changing it up, that particular car wash, to where that we added the mobile component, and that mobile component wasn't just they pay once; they also pay monthly. So I generated it to where it was similar to the way you operate a multifamily. So we cut expenses that didn't make sense, but I did not have to cut anyone from their actual duties. We just added things for them to do. If they were a window tinner, there's no way anyone's getting window tinting 7 days a week. So how are you getting paid hourly? Not window tinting. I need to know what else it is that you are very capable of doing, and then we'll put you in a position to be successful. And then if you tint windows, that'll just be extra. So just finding different value adds within those different opportunities, but ultimately just networking, because there's a lot of capital in South Florida, and even more. I think it was $27.6 billion have migrated to Florida, meaning their household income. And Florida's #1, and Texas is #2 at 6.3 billion.
Wow, wow, those numbers really stand out right there. Wow. So I can go all day asking questions. Just seeing your other panels, seeing you talk, just meeting you face to face. You're always a wealth of knowledge, and I love it about you how you pour into people, how you have the thought process when you're answering questions and things like that. You add so much value to people. But let's talk about the meat and potatoes before we can go into anything else. Let's talk about time management. The floor is yours.
With time management, for me, it's always about PVT: priority, value, and time. Whatever you prioritize and you value, that's what will receive your time first. I don't think enough individuals prioritize or value their time. So when I hear someone say, "Oh, I don't have enough time in the day," it's not that you don't have enough time in the day. You didn't prioritize your time with the values that you have in place. So that's what will receive majority of your time first and foremost. But everyone's situation is definitely different. So it's important to know what works for you and not what works for everyone else, and stop showing up for others as much as you don't show up for yourself. So it's okay to be selfless, but sometimes you got to know when to be less selfless. So that doesn't mean you have to make every meetup. Doesn't mean you have to be on every Zoom. Doesn't mean you have to be at every event. Sometimes you got to sit back and realize that maybe your body might need rest. Maybe your mind might need a timeout. Maybe you might need to take a me day or a me vacation outside of a family vacation. Because oftentimes most individuals that are feel as though they're drowning, it's because they're giving so much to individuals that are drowning them and they don't realize it. And I hate to say it, but oftentimes it starts with family. And then from family, friends, and then from friends, which you usually call family, it's employers or the individuals that you work with at your employer, at your form of employment. So ultimately, you just have to look back, take a step back. Me personally, I self-evaluate every day. Like every morning, I work out in all black. It symbolizes a clean slate. I start from zero, so no one can knock me down. And when I walk out the house, I'm off to conquer the world. Now, if you hear a loud noise, that might be my neighbor heard me. Him and his wife might be saying it too. But every morning, he's a FBI agent, and he's leaving out. I'm up at 4 a.m. and I'm out by 5:30, and he's leaving out around the same time. And we're off to conquer the world. I was like, I don't want to cross paths with you, but if I'm crossing paths with you, I'm on the wrong side of the Well, no, with all jokes aside, it's just to add value as much as possible and having those honest conversations and being honest with yourself, because I don't think we are enough. I don't think we have enough self-positive conversations with ourselves. I don't think we reinvest in ourselves with time, energy, and attitude. Like anytime I talk to kids, that's why I would say, listen with your what? Eyes and ears. Always work how? Hard and smart. Most importantly, do what? Have fun, because you can't learn anything frustrated. But what three things do we expect? Maximum amount of effort, maximum amount of energy, and come with the right attitude. That's it. Just control the controllables.
Okay, so let's deep dive a little bit more because I love everything you're saying. So in the clubhouse room, we knew that we was gonna talk about time management, so that was the theme yesterday. And I heard some really interesting takes, and TJ's on here; she can confirm everything I'm saying. Um, so you know, I know you had to prioritize your time and things like that, but what about when you run into obstacles? For instance, you know what your tasks are. Maybe as you know, as a parent, you had to spend that amount of time with your kids. You have your full-time job. You still want to do stuff in real estate. Um,
Mhm.
you know, do you block off time, or what would you say to something like that? To this first question.
I say, first and foremost, everyone has a different situation and treat it as such. So every situation is a different situation, treated as such. Within that situation, I always say I don't believe in issues and problems. I believe in situations, period. So there's a situation that requires an experience that will lead to a solution. Chances are, if you're having situations, you haven't had enough experience with it, or you haven't surrounded yourself with individuals that have experience in it. Now that goes back to network. That's why sometimes you hear it takes a village. It's not just raising a child. Sometimes it takes a village with, leveraging someone's mental capacity, leveraging someone's network, not always just talking about leveraging someone's money. So adding value in different ways. But I definitely would say situational wise, you have to figure out what works for you. I actually, like everyone asked me, why don't you have an iPhone? Because an iPhone doesn't suit what I was trying to do. My phone, I have a Google Pixel. My Google Pixel allows me to pre-schedule messages and pre-schedule emails. Oftentimes, most people throughout the month receive an email or a message from me that was sent a month ago. So now it's a matter of my Google Assistant is my non-paid VA or my non-paid assistant, should I say, because my employer pays for that. So with that being said, I maximize my technology surrounding me without initially having to add an additional body. So I set up certain things in place, and not everyone's technology savvy. So when you put those in place, find out what works for you. Get everyone's schedule. If you have kids, you have the whole family. What's family time? Okay, this is blocked off. Goes back to priority. List all your priorities first, all your values, and then put them in order and what's what. I wouldn't say label them as um, uh, hard, medium, mild, whatnot. But you need to label them of what's one for you. If it's family, put it up there. What does it look like? Is it family night? Is it 2-3 times a week? Whatever the case may be. For me, I wake up earlier because I'm a firm believer in earlier rise, early to bed, early to rise, work your rear end off and advertise. That's how I was drilled on a regular basis. So I got up earlier to offset time. If everyone in the house is sleeping, What's stopping you from setting your alarm maybe an hour or two earlier before everyone else gets up to get certain things done? Granted, it might wear you out if you have little ones or little babies or whatnot, but you have to find out what works for you. But I pre-schedule a lot of things. I'm very proactive as opposed to being reactive. So therefore, I'm in a position to where if something changes within my schedule, it's not hard for me to shift. And then another thing I would say is it's called Mind Valley. It's something definitely I would recommend looking into. The same way you have YouTube, Mind Valley works on a lot of mental, just in general, and they actually kind of create a playlist of certain mind things that will help you as well. I know that probably sounds a little weird, but Mind Valley is something like, so when you listen to your podcast, different things of that nature, there's different forms that you can set it up once you're a part of their membership setup. Like you can set it up to where you have different like items in place and playlists in place that they, after you do your ongoing questionnaire with them, they set it up for you from there. So it eliminates the thinking of what should I do? What extracurricular activity do I need to do, etc. But I understand everyone's situation is different, but I can't tell you what works for me. And I have constant reminders that pop up on my phone. I downloaded the app Evernote. It's a green elephant. And Evernote, I pretty much, whenever I need a password, whenever I need any notes or I'm at a meeting, I always say, if you don't mind, may I pull my laptop out so I can take notes? If you don't mind, on my phone, I have an app called Evernote. I show it to them before I come in, just letting them know in advance. You mind if I take notes on it? Because I can upload it, to my documents and things of that nature. So you just have to figure out what works for you.
So
Yes, that's correct, Tamara. Mind Valley.
um, I think a lot of things is that the biggest enemy to your success is the person looking in the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
And you say that, hey, you start off with a clean slate every day. I love that. But what about somebody who's struggling? Maybe who is not structured or anything like that. What can you tell that person for them to accomplish tasks or a weekly task? What can they do to turn stuff around?
Starting back with priorities. Most people don't even know what their priorities are. They just know, oh, my family first. Okay, what does that look like? What does that sound like? What does that feel like? Like write that stuff down. Say that stuff out loud. Like even when, the one part I didn't talk about, like even before I leave, I say a lot of positive affirmations. Like even when I talk to kids, I have them say a lot of positive affirmations. I'll say this real quick and answer that question. When I was in kindergarten, this is how far this goes back. When I was in kindergarten, I had a principal. Her name was Dr. Ramey. And the teacher was Mr. Brakeman and Mr. Rusty and Miss Aikman and Miss Fernari. So just to remember, elementary school teachers, this is what took place every day in those classrooms. Dr. Raymond came on the screen on the big box that we had at the time, talking about how old it was, but the big box, and she would say this all the time. Our school creed, the most powerful point in that school creed was, I will crawl through that tunnel, I will climb that mountain, and when I get to the top, I will stand and say, I am somebody. And we'd say it about 10 to 15 times before she ever went off the screen. And the way she made us say it was what was the most important part of saying it. She said, point to yourself and say it to the top of your lungs. I am somebody. Look at the person across from you. They literally set up our desk a certain way. So we were speaking it into existence, not just in the atmosphere. We were telling someone that we were somebody. I am somebody. Say it again. I am somebody. Go tell your teacher. I am, like everybody in the classroom, look at your teacher. I am somebody. So when you're in elementary saying that through 5th grade, whatever's coming come 6th grade, it's going to be hard to conquer that kid. And it's no surprise that most of the individuals that went to that school were very successful as professionals in whatever field they went into. And she'd always make her rounds to every classroom before the end of the week. That was just dedication in general. So when I talk to kids, like I literally have them hold up a mirror. Like I have contracts with school districts and I have them hold up a mirror and look into the mirror. I love me. I will be great. I am a success. I am somebody. I'm giving them back what someone gave to me. I am somebody. So by the time they get through singing it or saying it, I play a song at the end. Be different, be nice, just smile. I promise you to change your life. So these positive words, are going into the whole setup. So you definitely want to make sure you do what's in your best interest to just add as much value as possible, first and foremost.
I think that man, you really knocked some stuff out the park, and thank you for that. Um, what would you say to somebody who was, and I think you already talked about it already, but what would you say to somebody who just first started off in real estate, this eager, energetic? What would you say to that person first starting off?
Take a step back and evaluate you. Who are you? Because a lot of individuals are running, someone else's race. They're trying to go on someone else's journey because they're feeding themselves with so much information that has a lot to do with the shiny object syndrome. If you knew who you were, if you knew who you answered to and how you wanted to show up on a daily basis, there wouldn't be analysis paralysis the way it's going around. There wouldn't be, jumping from this asset class to that asset class and then saying, oh, I don't think I really like this one. Oh, I don't think I really like that one. Stop running somebody else's race. Stop going on someone else's journey while you're listening to these podcasts. Someone's telling you about a book that they read. Did you ever take the time to ask them, how did you apply it? How did you take action? So they're just regurgitating what they read. Like individual I was talking to told me they read the book The Molecule of More, and just emphasis on psychology in general of how we want more all the time, but we never sit back and look at how we can achieve more in a productive, way that's conducive to what it is we're trying to achieve. Like, yes, we all want more, but why do you want more? So the same way you have a why, ask yourself why you're on this journey. Why are you doing these things? If it's driven solely by capital, take a step back and ask yourself, if you had all the capital that you needed right now, would you be doing what you're currently doing? If you had all the capital you needed right now, what would you do differently and why? What does it look like? What does it sound like? And what does it feel like? And how do you show up for you every day, regardless of how you're feeling?
Okay. What would you say to what is your before open up for attendees, where you want to see yourself out in the next 5 years?
Just being a complete value add. Um, in every way possible. I think the biggest thing right now everyone needs, whether they want to admit it or not, is capital. Just across the board, it's capital. Even the most experienced operators are looking for private equity, whether they want to admit it or not. They're calling people in the last 2 weeks of a deal or the last 30 days after extension and this, that, and the third. Being a capital resource, and since I have access to a lot of things and a lot of people, some of the things that I'm a part of, I'm going to be that capital resource to where I'm going to be allowing individuals to leverage the opportunities financially that I've had in place in a different way that they've ever kind of imagined, especially that newer investor. Learn how to build your bank, because a lot of individuals are joining a lot of things and investing a lot of funds that they really don't have, that's setting them back before it's catapulting them forward. So if you're going to be a student, ask yourself what's the timeline of being a student. And if it's not within your time frame, then that's probably not the program or opportunity for you. So be realistic with yourself, what it is that you want to do, how you want to do it, when you want to do it, what's the timeline, and who are you going to do it with. But definitely being a capital resource, just, all things capital resource, because there's a lot of things out there that's available that most people just never heard of, they don't know about, and it's foreign to them.
Any last words that you want to say to people, to the audience?
Be the best version of you every day. When you walk out of your house, just know that you're adding value to others. You shouldn't have a down day at the same time where life happens. And when life happens, the question is, you have to be the first person to be willing to pick you up, because not every time and not every day someone's going to be there to do that for you the way you need it or the way you want. But remember, everything starts and ends with communication. And all a person knows sometimes is what they know and how to respond to you or others, or how to show up for you and others the way they know how. So be willing to communicate what you need factually and actually, and not assume someone knows what you need and how you need it and when you need it. So show up for you first, and others will see how you show up for you. And they usually will show up for you in the best way possible because you've communicated effectively.
You guys heard it from one of the best, Miss Aubrey G. So anybody can ask her questions. So please raise your hands and ask Aubrey a question. Don't be shy. She's not going to bite.
Brady says, what do you currently do? I want to say this first. I still choose to have an occupation as well. I work in government, obviously about $7 billion in government assets. So that also helps me navigate a lot. I'm on a lot of committees. I actually know how to speak the lingo when you're going into a market, when you're dealing with government officials, because a lot of individuals don't realize there's a difference between a city, a town, a village, and a county. So if you don't realize those things, even when you're looking at assets, you don't know who to really contact when you start talking about, a path to progress. What does that mean? Because half of the individuals on those committees don't know more than the secretary or the administrative assistant that's sitting at the front desk, because they're the ones getting majority of the phone calls and they're the ones logging the books. So you need to know how many permits are being pulled, how long it's taking those permits to be pulled, and who's the one that's calling the shots and making sure that it's actually being done. And most times you'll realize it's not the mayors and it's not the commissioners. It's the administrators, the county administrators, the city managers, and things of that nature. So when you know who to talk to, you stop wasting time. Like when you go into a restaurant and say, I want to talk to the manager. Sometimes the best person to talk to is the waiter or the waitress. So be kind and ask questions. And what you don't know, someone usually will be willing to assist you. But that helps me a lot when it comes to market analysis and knowing the market and who to talk to, who to connect with, what department to talk to, because majority of the infrastructures are similar, however, very different depending on state to state and how they operate governing body wise.
And Ren is a 19-year-old guy. So just to let you know too. So that's great information for him. TJ, you're next, ma'am.
Hi, Aubrey. I just wanted to tell you thank you for being here, and you always create an open, welcoming space, no matter what platform you're on, and no matter where I see you speaking at, you give your all. So I wanted to tell you thank you for that. But I do have a question, and it's a hard question that I'm usually always asking you anyway. After you put together a deal, or you have a deal and it doesn't do as great as you wanted it to do, it doesn't produce the returns that you projected, even though you put your foot forward as far as analysis, what do? Do you sit there and you nurse that situation to bring it, as close to your projections as possible, not knowing if that's possible or not? Or do you just continue to move on with, putting out new deals? I guess it comes back to, if you're new in this, what's the right thing to do? Is it to sit with that for a little while, or do you just keep, meshing forward into something that may be successful? And I don't know if you understand what I'm asking.
Yes, I'm going to answer the question directly to you, for you. And I'm going to answer the question also being very descriptive for individuals that might have a similar situation or might want to know how to do something. So I like to answer questions for everyone as opposed to just someone. I'll say that first and foremost. Fortunately, I haven't had a situation that way. However, this is the first thing I would say. If it has to do with a lot of individuals go at things alone. And oftentimes when you go at things alone, certain situations happen when you don't have, say, an experienced team in place. But the first thing you do is be honest. So if you have investors involved, you have to communicate, because a lot of individuals that find themselves on the wrong side are the ones that aren't open and honest and communicating. Because investors are, most of the time, I'll say, understanding individuals. However, when you don't communicate with them and it's kind of last minute, it does sometimes break that form of trust for maybe a future opportunity with that investor. So you want to be honest and forthright when it comes to that. And then the other part of that is documenting everything that you do on a deal from A to Z. Making your checklist, but definitely having a team in place. Granted, different spaces are different as far as asset classes. They require something different. There's a lot of new asset classes that are being created, in my opinion. That doesn't make them right or wrong. It's just more so of, if you have very little knowledge of something, the worst thing you can do sometimes is go at it alone. You can have all the capital in the world and you can find yourself at zero real quick because you ran out of money because you didn't do the budget right. Like call came through today asking for some equity, literally because they ran out of their capital halfway through their project because they just budgeted incorrectly, and it was a development, actually a phenomenal development once it's complete. The question is, how are they going to complete it? So I would say definitely, usually don't try to go at something alone. Get an experienced team. Be selfless at the same time. Understand that the bigger the pie, the more there is to eat for all. And I always say a piece of a deal sometimes is better than no deal at all, because I see a lot of individuals coming over from the residential side, at least in the commercial space, and they're having a hard time with the bigger pie and them not being over everything, them not doing everything, but them not realizing that it took a team even to close their residential deal. They just didn't receive their portion of their commission. So it's just how you choose to look at it, how you choose to go at it, and who you choose to go at it with. So I definitely would say be honest up front. The sooner the better, because now they can, sometimes you'll be surprised that some of these investors, they can help a person operate a maneuver sometimes in a way and think about certain things, especially if you got a contractor that's a passive investor or whatnot, or another investor that's invested and they're an operator and they're just passively invested on this particular deal, whatever the situation is. But you'll be surprised sometimes at how your investors will respond. And that goes back to be willing to communicate, because oftentimes we create a narrative in our head that's not necessarily the narrative that's going to come out of somebody's mouth.
Thank you for that. And I don't know if you knew you were doing this, but you were actually going into another question that I kind of had in the background, but I wasn't sure if I should ask it or how to ask it, but it's about the team. The next part of this is, yes, we know you have to build a team, but when you're first starting in this business, specifically when you're starting to get around creating deals and syndication like activity, I'm not saying it's syndication, you have to have a team. But when you're new, what if you are not in the circles of building an experienced team? You've built a team, but the inexperience is there because of where you are, in your journey. What do you do? Do you think that's an indicator that you should not be, I guess, in a position where you are? Maybe you need to step back, and maybe, look at going into a team instead of leading the team. But that was the second part I had about that, is that teams that aren't really invested, especially if you're all new to certain aspects of conducting this type of business, they're not going to always be sound, especially if a deal doesn't go the way that you projected it to go. So I guess my question was, where do you start as far as a team? Is it smart to come out the gate building a team, or should you just ride the wave of an existing team until you get those lessons that you need?
I think it goes I think you got to take a step back before that. Two-part. Once again, who are you? What is it that you're trying to achieve? I think there's a lot of individuals signing up to be operators that are really passive investors. They don't know it yet until 6 to 10 months or a year down the road. They've spent a significant amount of capital to do it when they should have just passively invested it after they learned. Take the time you need to educate yourself to where you feel comfortable, not someone else. And I would say another thing too, to anyone that's going to different events and programs and things of that nature, a lot of immature teams are being built at those programs just to meet those fees that are being asked for them to gain entry, quote unquote, into the space. So I think a lot of different factors are taking place. I definitely would say, whether you're in a network or thinking about a network, you really need to consider before you go at it alone or go at it with trying to go into a team, get to know each other over the course of 6 months to a year. Because realistically, most of you guys aren't going to do a deal in the first year anyway, if it's in the commercial space. For sure, if you're talking about multifamily or a new development, because those asset classes, you have to, show balance sheets and different things of that nature to be on the deal. So I would say I learned a ton, and a lot of individuals always encourage them, if you really want to learn something, sometimes or oftentimes, I like to go where the experience is for me. I'll say that because you need to vet that experience too, because a lot of people say they have experience and have zero experience. So a lot of that's going on as well. So you have to figure out who you are, make sure you have an idea of what you add value and ways you add value and how you want to show up with that value. And more importantly, don't start premature teams in the sense of starting LLCs. You guys can start forming your, teams and then go partner up with operators and things of that nature. But there's different ways to do it. There's a lot of operators looking for partners, in different ways because they're not great at marketing or because they're not great at, deal sourcing. They don't have time to deal sourcing when they're, penciling on the paper for as a key principal or whatnot. So ultimately, I would say before you spend funds, spend a ton of time networking. Be it comfortable being uncomfortable. I don't think enough people network enough. Oh, well, I don't want to do this. I just want to get all my funds and I'm just going to pour it into this. Okay, what are you pouring it into? What are you looking to do? What are the returns you're looking for? If you haven't even educated yourself on the little things, you're kind of going at it, where you're probably going to end off on a cliff anyway. Hopefully it's a ditch with some water as opposed to a ditch with no water. But surround yourself with individuals that are doing what it is that you want to do and just pick their brain. And if they're not willing to share, that's probably not the individual or the team you need to be a part of. But the individuals that really want to see you thrive and grow, they'll be willing to assist. But I'm not a fan of just going into premature teams with a ton of inexperience, because ultimately you guys don't even really know how to leverage each other because you don't even know who you are because you're new to the space. So you want to find operators that are actually doing deals because that's how you do deals. If you guys are students, you're going to just be stuck learning. Who wants to pay to learn? So if you're going to pay, invest while earning, earn while learning, so that's how I kind of go at that before you just say starting a team. Now, if it's an asset class, that's a little different than most, because I know you have a couple of them. There's some things that are very similar with a lot of individuals. So I definitely say network outsource or source out, should I say, the individuals that are doing something similar that can guide you and give you guidance, that have been doing it for a significant point of time, like Miss Peggy here.
Thank you. You have so many other questions pending, but I appreciate your answers. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
So that's all one.
Miss Peggy has her hand raised.
Well, before Peggy goes, I had a couple questions. Like a couple people had asked questions prior to. So where was it? Sorry. Okay, so Miss A asks, with your experience in commercial real estate, what is the current upcoming trend you see that you are looking to pursue?
I'm looking to pursue.
What is the current upcoming trend you see that you are looking to pursue?
Okay. Every 90 days, I take a step back and I look at everything, every asset class. I actually dwell in index options a ton, so I don't have to invest. So therefore, my capital, my principal is always protected, and my capital is always growing from my cash flow. So if I want to invest, I do. If I don't, I'm always steady doing what an investment would do for me, if not better return wise. So right now, I've been looking at car washes a lot more because I like the 7-day, cash coming in our funds coming in. I don't like the month coming in, especially when some individuals can't afford something, some individuals can't. Like, I'm not a fan of the turning units all the time. I like organic. Like, if it's talking about multifamily, I like organic value adds. I don't like just going in gutting out units. Why spend $5,000 to turn a unit for your ideal tenant when there's a high chance your ideal tenant's already there? It's just a matter of how you're going to, you know, help them mentally understand that, because a lot of these individuals are willing to pay. You just don't know it because you thought they weren't willing to pay just by you going up on the rent. So how you treat them matters as well. But right now, for me, I'm looking at car washes a lot more, land a lot more, which I've done 2 transactions in those in the last quarter, because I'm in my 4th quarter right now, which started July 1. And multifamily, I look at, sometimes with one eye, just based on the business plans I'm seeing. You can't raise rent $200 if the median income is $41,000. So for me, the median income has to be a minimum of $50,000. Otherwise, I'm probably not interested in that particular asset, passively or actively. But ultimately, trends wise, I like car washes right now. I like land, and I'm looking at a laundromat, things that are cash flowing consistently, because people, they are necessities a lot more than people think.
Okay. And then one more question. Jordan asked, can you share 2 challenges that you face on your journey and how you overcame them?
I would say the less is more, because sometimes you try to pour so much value in others, and ultimately it takes so much from you. So I would say constantly, having to reevaluate, 365 days of the year, but also not checking out, but taking time out to pour back into yourself before you pour into others. Because if your cups, half empty, how much fuel do you have to, give to others? So I would say one of my biggest challenges, because I don't like to make things always commercial real estate, because I think it's an individual thing, and then, a people thing first, because I think that's the biggest asset that we don't talk about or we don't give enough credit to. The biggest asset in this earth is people, because if people didn't have capital, then they didn't have capital to deploy into these other assets that we're talking about acquiring. So I want to make sure I point that out. But investing in yourself first, time wise, energy wise, health wise, wellness wise, education wise, in a number of ways. But those have been the biggest, I'll say, challenges for me, as far as commercial space, just because I'm able to in a lot of different circumstances, making sure I always continuously vet the deal, vet the sponsorship team if I'm investing passively. And if I'm actively looking at something, making sure it's something that makes a ton of sense, not just for me, but more importantly for the investors, because I don't technically need the returns. That's why I still choose to have an occupation that I don't view as a job. I view it as a passion.
Love it. Love it. So Peggy, the floor is yours.
Da-na-na-na.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to, well, first, Aubrey, you're amazing, just totally amazing. And I learned something new today, which is really great. I love when I learn new things. I didn't know you could rent or buy a single space to be able to rent it. That is brilliant. Oh my God, that's so brilliant. I can't tell you how brilliant it is. So thrilled you told us that. But I did want to comment on Tamara's thoughts. One of the things when you're looking to put a group together is the discussion to have is, what do you like to do and what don't you like to do? Because if you put a team together and everybody likes to do the same thing, who's going to do the stuff that nobody likes? So that's super important. And what you said, Aubrey, find somebody that will let you come to work for them, even if you don't get, I mean, you could get paid on the GP side, but just go to work for them and learn. And that's how you get the experience. As capital raisers, we will work with people that aren't experienced. So you got to get the experience. And if it means bringing an experienced person on your team, that means everything. And I know people that have done that, and it works really well because people like and trust that lead person, and they will put their money in. So, yeah,
I
but
would
Aubrey,
say-
you just blow me away, lady.
Well, thank you. I would say this too. I'm glad you brought that up about capital. I think it's important for anyone that is new in the space. A lot of individuals are being told to just submit LOIs, submit 100 LOIs. No, 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 no. Because if your LOI gets accepted, do you have everything else in place? EI, equity. Do you have equity lined up? Are you always networking? Are you always deal sourcing? Are you always connecting with people? If you're not doing that, why are you submitting LOIs? Because if it were to get accepted, it's not in place. If there's a ton of sponsors, and this is factual actually happening right now, if there's sponsors that are hesitant with going after assets because they don't have equity lined up or equity teams lined up to take that asset down, what makes you think you within the first 90 to 365 days are going to be taking down a deal? And that's, I want to sometimes give the hard truth that oftentimes is not being discussed or talked about. You need to learn how to network, and you need to learn, even if you don't like to, certain concepts of networking that generate the possibility of raising equity, whether it's for your deal or a partner deal, and or someone else's deal that you're going to be a partner on. But it's very important that you start lining certain things up before you ever submit, or more importantly, before you ever have an LOI accepted. And that's not talked about enough.
Okay, we have 2 more questions for Aubrey before we take this off line. So any more questions for Aubrey? Okay, well, I guess not. I guess you answered all the questions, Aubrey. Thank you so much. Just the added value you gave to all of us on here. Just excellent, excellent, excellent. If anybody wants to get a hold of you, what is a good contact for them?
If possible, may I share my screen, sir?
Absolutely. Hold on. I'm ready to share my own screen. Hold on. Okay, there you go.
Okay, here you are. Can you see my screen? All right, there you go. I'll put it on the presentation mode. I guess the presentation mode is the one I had. Wanted to make sure. There you go. So if I put the QR codes on there, so you can scan with your phone to the top right. That's a way to pretty much have access to me, to where you can schedule a call with me. I have a video in there, so you kind of learn a little bit more about me. I think a lot of individuals should consider that before you get on the call with someone, before you're trying to, tell them about you, this, that, and the third. Let them kind of know about you with the video. So I have a video on there to where individuals get to know a little bit about me. So when we get on the call, it's always about them and how, I can add value to them and we can add value to each other. And to the left, you'll see my Life Legacy Capital, Synergy Paradigm. But the 2 passion projects that I have is Youth Serve Academy, our college prep private school for incoming 9th graders. And the goal is to stop talking about student loan debt, but add value on the other end. Student loan debt is in place oftentimes because a lot of students aren't getting what they need in 9th through 12th grade in high school. So they're going to college in junior year. They're adding 4 to 6 unnecessary semesters because they finally figured out career-wise what they would like. When if they had those different type of academies in high school available to them, they would have already kind of been on that journey. So our kids leave with a high school diploma and a 2-year college degree and a particular academy of their choice. And then L.I.F E Sports Academy has a lot to do with our in deals, closing deals, and more importantly, adding value. If you really want to meet a lot of people, go to a sporting event. Parents' biggest success point, I don't believe in pain points because they ultimately lead to success. Parents' biggest success point and where you want to meet a ton of people, it's their kids. So LIFE stands for Let's Invest in Future Education and Employment. And that's for youth and adults. So we have Mind Your Business summits for business owners, where we have CPA professionals come out and help them mind their own business, tax strategies and things of that nature so they can apply for business credit and different things that they need community-wise. So when I invest, I don't just invest in an asset, I invest in the community as a whole, whether that's through education, through sports, or both.
All right, Aubrey. Well, thank you so much for coming on here. And I'm very excited for currently and your future. Can't wait to be around your presence again in the near future, hopefully at the end of this year, like we did last year. And you definitely cannot look forward to our next conversation as well. And thank you for sharing as well with all your contact information. I know people will contact you.
Absolutely. If I may be of value to any one of you, feel free to, connect. Because I'm definitely a connector. If I can't be of value to you, I know someone that can.
Absolutely. So just want to say thank you to her once again. Also, just let you know the Veteran Transition Speaker Series website is open, is out. We are building it right now, but it is out online. So check that out. Next week, our guest speaker will be Fred Jacquet. He is always on Clubhouse on the Clubhouse room. So really excited to have Fred be the guest speaker. And I just want to say thank you guys once again for coming on this meetup. We'll see you guys next week. If I cannot make it next week, then the host will be Mr. International himself. Will be taking over as the guest speaker because I'll be in Las Vegas for a AAU basketball tournament with my son. So
Contacts.
Yes. So if I can't do it, Mr. International Lawrence Laddie will be. So just gets to give you guys that info right there. So you said, hold on, Aubrey. So I just want to say thank you guys once again. Love you guys. God bless you and take care.
You guys have a phenomenal week.